Hello and welcome to this special episode of Sandarbha at Janata Television. I am Yutsa Bhattrai and today we are in discussion with CH Venkatachalam, General Secretary of All India Bank Employees Association, and Mr. Venkatachalam has been actively advocating for rights of workers in banks, insurance and finance unions worldwide. He is also the General Secretary of TUI BIFU BIFU, Trade Union International, Banks, Insurance and Finance Unions. Welcome to our talk program, sir. It's a privilege having you here.
My pleasure too.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Mr. Venkatachalam, can you explain in brief about the World Trade Union movements to our viewers?
Yeah, quite true. You see, particularly after the Industrial Revolution, slowly the workers realized that they need to come together, and then they started the unions. But they were all scattered. They were not together. Their immediate anger was against the machine. That machine is taking away my job. Then they understood that machine had been employed by somebody. So their anger was against the employer. Then slowly they understood that the employer also is being supported by governments. So he was against the government policies. So, and then he wanted some rights for safeguarding his jobs, etc. So slowly, this understanding, realization has evolved and unions have come to stay. And in the global level, the first global international trade union was World Federation of Trade Unions that was started in 1945. And since then, there have been different global unions. There is now a few more are there. But the foremost international trade union, workers union, was the World Federation of Trade Unions that was started in Paris 74 years ago. Now its headquarters is in Greece, in Europe. And similarly, in different countries also, slowly workers have realized that the employers, the managements, those who give them job, they are not taking care of them. And so they have been fighting and unions have come. And today trade unions are a necessary evil or an inevitable instrument to safeguard the interest of the workers.
Right, so it's been almost 74 years since World Federation of Trade Unions was established. Yes. How does it express its solidarity with the worldwide trade union movements today? What are the major changes in the last 73 years?
See, basically, today trade unions are being perceived as an ATM machine to get me more salary like that. But if you look at this, the workers were more hit when there was a war between countries and countries in the First World War. And there was a very huge problem. The people lost their lives, and workers, they were being deprived, and the prices were going up. And so they found that this war is not good, we want peace. When war is there, workers' needs are completely neglected. The whole attention is war. Secondly, the country's resources are also diverted to war. So this was one immediate realization that in addition to my own demands, there must be peace, there should not be war. And in fact, there is a reason why 1945, this World Federation of Trade Unions was started. After the Second World War, the workers found everywhere that the people lost their life, very precious lives, millions of lives were lost. And the workers' demands could not succeed because the whole government everywhere, they were more bothered about the war. And the country's resources were also more spent on war. And so this is the first thing that workers, they want peace and they are against war. This is how it happened. Then if the government is pursuing a policy which is hostile, then they are against that government. Similarly, when they fight against the employers, against reasonable demands, when prices go up, I want more salary, I want after my retirement some decent life, etc. When that is being denied, and when they fight, they find that government is also supporting them. So they have been fighting for labor rights. So like that, it's an evolution that the workers have so many priorities. Immediately my salary, then my service conditions, I want a decent service condition. Then they come to realize that their jobs are very important, like that. Then they find that what are the reasons which are not helpful to them, which are the policies. So, they become antagonistic to those policies. So, like that they evolve, and they come into policy confrontation with the governments which are not supporting the workers' demands, which are supporting the employers. So, it is a big evolution in the trade union that today, in fact, that is why trade unions are inseparable from politics, because the war is a political issue. Whether a country should fight with another country, it is a political issue. But trade union, we do not want war, we want peace. So, naturally, the workers also feel that I must be having some political view on matters which are confronting me. I must also influence the government. If suppose the workers can fight and tell the government, no, please do not pursue this policy of war, we want peace. So, they slowly understood that politics and their economic demands are inseparable. So, that is why we find that workers have played a very important role in liberation movements for the freedom of the country. It is not their job, but they played a very important role. So, this is a long story of almost a century that workers, they are in the forefront of fighting for themselves and fighting for the countries, the development, the prosperity and the concern of the people around them.
Mr. Venkatachalam, when the World Federation of Trade Union was first established, its primary objective was to defeat fascism, its primary objective was to defeat feudalism. But in the present context, in this era of multinational companies and transnational companies, and when the world is captivated by neoliberalism and the ideas of capitalism, what do you think are the major challenges for the trade union movements and for the human rights of the workers? How do you define this, or how do you take this?
Exactly. See, we need to revisit the fundamentals. Number one, we need democracy. Not only within the trade union, we want in every polity, in every country, we need democratic rights for the people. Because under fascism, as we see, this is the first target, first casualty. The democratic rights are taken away, and dictatorship becomes the policy. So, workers, they want democracy, and today it has become very, very relevant, and they want democracy. Secondly, we find that there is exploitation, and we understand very easily that this exploitation is because of the greed of the employer to make more profits. He is right from his point of view that he is investing money, he wants more profit, but it is discriminatory, it is also exploitative. So, he wants a society which is not exploitative. He wants an exploitation-free society. That is why we in the WFTU, we feel that socialism is the solution. So, in socialism, everybody contributes, but there is no exploitation. So, this is another one that they find that these are all our priorities, and today that is why it is very challenging. Over the years, these have been guaranteed. Mostly there is some democratic setup in the world, and we find that nobody can really say that I am a dictator. Nobody can say that I am a fascist. They do, but so those issues go to the background, and the workers' economic demands have come to the front. So, I think this is the time where we have to tell the workers that it is very important to fight for your economic demand, for your jobs, for betterment, for welfare, salary. Equally, it is very, very important to have an ideological conviction. That is very important, that orientation, that ultimately what is the objective of the workers. I need my union, I need to fight, I want a better living, but everything is possible only if there is a system which supports this, only if there is a political policy which supports this. So, this is the time when we have to talk more and more of political orientation, ideological orientation, which makes the workers to understand that this is fascism, this is dictatorship, this is undemocratic, and this is socialism, and which is good, which is bad. The time has come to educate, especially young workers in the neo-global scenario. The money is overtaking the person. Money is important, but money is overtaking everything. So, we need to tell money is important, but your society which supports a decent living. That's also important. Workers have to fight for such a society. That's a very contemporary issue in which we are all addressing ourselves. How to make the workers realize what is the present challenge and what is our task.
So what are the effective tools and what are the effective instruments that would make the young, especially the young generation or the young workers, aware about their rights or aware about these ideologies and these philosophies regarding the trade union movement or regarding their own rights? Well, what are the major tools? How can we make them aware?
Yeah, see, number one, we need to give them training. We need to expose them. We need to frequently interact with them. We can't take them for granted. There was a time when the workers were suffering a lot, and so they naturally understood that I have to fight. That's my priority. Now things have been better because of the contributions of trade union struggle. Labor laws have come, minimum wages have come, Payment of Wages Act have come, and pension funds have come, and there are a lot of laws even for resolution of my disputes. Trade Union Act, industrial disputes, industrial resolution, all types of machinery have come. So this will have to be told to them. How these have been achieved? Only by struggle. So number one, we have to talk to them that you preserve all these things. These are the method by which we are today managing. So kindly take care of that. Number two, how to further improve. So these constant interaction, and in my experience I find that youngsters are very intelligent because today they are exposed thanks to social media, technology revolution, etc. They are much more informed, they are more qualified, and they have exposure to the realities. Only thing, we have to connect them. We have to connect them to the ground realities and with all this why these are happening, and once we find that we are able to connect it, they are the best cadres to defend trade unions, they are the best fighters for trade unions. And this is the important thing. So the unions have to find the time both to address the present challenges as well as to prepare the young people to be cadres in taking the trade union movement to new heights in the days to come, to win more rights and to protect the interest of the working class.
How can we make this a young generation technology friendly? Do you think it's going to be more helpful in the trade union movement if we include or if we enhance young generation and technology together?
Quite true. Technology cannot be avoided because science, it will go on. So how I understand and how I travel along with science and technology, that's very important. And it's changing minute to minute. And the young people are quite comfortable with technology. So we have to innovate in trade unions the methodology of linking our old methods with the new type of thing where we have to reach the people. It's very helpful, but we must be very careful because this technology and social media, it has negative consequences also. So we must use it, but we should try to make it a positive tool in networking. This is very important. We talk of workers of the world unite, but we do not know even the workers in the next factory. What are his problems? We do not know in the next province what's going on. I am from India. I don't think that all my Indian workers know what is the condition of the workers in Nepal, even though we are neighbors and we are so friendly. So what to talk of workers of the world unite? But this social networking helps. And so there is a big possibility for the workers in different countries to understand, share their experiences, and maybe if we really train them properly, the concept of uniting the workers across the globe is a definite possibility. That way they are better placed than the previous generation.
So how can we bring the young generation and the old generation together while working for the trade union movements? The old generation might have a different idea because they might have been grown up in different society during war, and the new generation, they have been growing up with technology. So how can we amalgamate their ideas to perform better, for trade union movements to perform better?
Yeah, so it's a big challenge. That's what we are facing because the perception is different. Their perception, their background, they came, as you said, from a war background. So they are very sensitive to war, and they are so committed to peace. Whereas the new generation, and the peace is taken for granted. So that's why blending in the leadership also, there must be a proper blend of the experienced people and also the young people. And once we have seen young people, once they understand, then they are the best. So this is the challenge before the senior people who have built up, they have sacrificed. At hard time, they have given their life, everything, and they built up the unions. So how to transition? We have to transmit the ideology, we have to transition the leadership, and we must go forward. And this is a very big challenge for the senior people who are in the leadership in the trade union movement everywhere. It's a very important task for them.
Mr. Venkatachalam, let's be a little more context specific now. As you mentioned earlier, technology and digitalization do have an adverse impact on the trade union movement. What are the negative impacts of technology and digitalization in banking or financial sectors? How is it being affected? How are the banks and financial sectors being affected by the excessive use of technology and digitalization?
See, banking is a service-oriented industry. Banks are meant for the people to keep their savings in the bank, or to utilize the services, or to maybe even to take loans when they need. This is ultimately banking business. So there the personal interaction is very important. But technology is definitely important because the banking transactions are just like they're expanded in a huge way. So we can't be in the old manual system. It's definitely important that digitalization must come, technology must come. But two things must be kept in mind while bringing technology in the banking services. Number one, the benefit of technology must go to the consumer, the people. Number two, it should not adversely affect or impact on the jobs of the people. These two things are very important. If they are taken care, then technology will be a successful story. But by and large, now we find technology is coming only from the accounting point of view of the banks. That across the globe, I have banking business. Across the country, I have banking business. I want to have an easy accounting. That something happens somewhere, immediately I will come to know. So it is more an accounting a requirement that is being met. And rather than service. So the technology must become more service oriented, how the consumer is benefited. If that can be really taken care. And number two, technology will definitely replace people. But that's very important in growing economies where the educated youth, they need jobs, and banking job is a good job, decent job. So if we can take care of these two aspects, I think there is no issue. Technology can go on, and technology cannot be prevented. But how to harness technology to the benefit of the consumers and not adversely impacting the jobs of the workers. They will also naturally cooperate. Everybody will welcome technology. This is possible.
What are the other major threats and challenges that is currently looming upon the banking and financial institution? What are the other major challenges that needs to be tackled immediately? We need to come up with a solution.
See, across the world, we find in many countries that banks were earlier totally a commercial activity. That was the beginning. That I mobilize the savings, the deposits of the people, and I give loan. So that's a business, like any other business activity. But slowly, many governments realize that it's very important to keep the banks in the government control or in the public domain, because it's very important to regulate them. Because it was the experience that these people, they take the money of the people and they misuse it or abuse it, and the people were losing money. So this was number one. So slowly, in many countries, the banking became a government subject. It became a government company, public sector company, types of things. And today we are finding, because of the urge for more globalization, not only globalization, liberalization. They say, why government should do this business? It is not their business. So you privatize the bank. So this is one thing which is very important. And there is a myth that private banking or private sector banking is more efficient, because there is always a stigma attached to government banking. They are bureaucratic, they are rule bound, service is not good, etc. So this one thing will have to be answered properly, that if government banks and government banking service is not up to the expectation of the people, then this will come. So this is very important from the union point of view, from the employee point of view, that if I want a public sector banking to continue, then I must really take care of the service to the people, so that they also feel satisfied. Yes, government banking, number one. Number two, banking in a developed economy is one thing, banking in a developing economy is one thing. In a developing economy, to boost the economy, to develop the economy, banks have a very important role to play. And so naturally, the government or the central bank of the country must have some regulation how this bank should cater to the needs of economic development. So there naturally it has to be a government controlled company, a government controlled bank, and that is also very, very, very important. So long as the government, they are still developing, this is also very, very important. If it is going to be private, then naturally you can't blame the private banker, because he is meant to be greedy, to be profit oriented. He has invested money. Yeah. So naturally, what's profit? Nothing wrong. But the country's priority is different. So this is another one. So that's why it's a context. If banking has a social role, then naturally this is a very important challenge. But we are finding slowly under the liberalization era, there is a big pressure everywhere that why government should control banks. You give it to private people, they will manage, you don't worry. This is one big thing. Secondly, they are also, after this privatization, consolidation of banks and cornering, monopolizing the banking business, these are all happening, and the jobs are very important. So these are all new things which today we find as a challenge in the banking industry. Jobs, job security, then the orientation of the banks, the ownership. Capital is a very important thing, because the banks today all are linked to the international norms, Basel norms. So if I have to give loan, then it has to be backed up by capital. Suppose I need to give 100 rupees loan, there must be 10 to 12 rupees capital with me. So when economy is growing, when banks have to give more loan, they need more capital. So the governments are today, they are already facing problems of they are in the budget, deficit financing. So there is another pressure. So I have no money, so you better privatize yourself, go to private people, I can't give you capital. So new types of issues are coming today, and especially in the developing economies. In the well-developed economies like America, Germany, Japan, etc., that's completely different. Whereas in Asian countries or in the developing countries, the role of banking is different, and that is the same role cannot be applied to both. So this differentiation has to be understood, and accordingly we are fighting on these issues.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Venkatachalam, we are almost out of time, but before that, the Asia-Pacific Regional Conference of World Federation of Trade Union was recently organized in Kathmandu. What are the major takeaways, and what will be the next roadmap of World Federation of Trade Unions in the future to tackle with the problems of the workers and trade union movement? Please explain.
Yeah. Because Asia is a very big theater in experimenting. And exploitation policies to be implemented, etc. Every Asian country is under this. So that's why we are trying to network our experience, network our struggles everywhere. And so we had a meeting of the Asia Pacific Committee of the World Federation of Trade Unions, about 13 countries, right from Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Iran, Kazakhstan, of course Nepal, then India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. We all discussed, and in this meeting we focused on certain things. Number one, the social security is a casualty now. So the social security is under attack everywhere. So that we are telling it's a priority in this area, we must take care of that. And number two, the women workers are a big number in this area. And so naturally they are working under very difficult environment. So safe jobs, safety for them, decent salary, equal treatment, etc. That is one thing. Third one, youth. Youth has to be brought into the trade union movement, so that we have been talking. And we have also decided to further integrate and share our experiences, because we found in our today meet that almost the problems are the same. Almost, maybe the degree of the challenge has been little different, but basic problems have been the same. So, we found a commonality in the problems, a commonality in the challenges, and so we decided that there must be a commonality in our resistance, in our answer to those challenges also. So, that was the main focus of this meeting that we held in Kathmandu in Nepal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venkatachalam. It was an honor to have you here, and it was indeed wonderful to listen to your experiences. I hope your stay in Nepal was pleasant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
With this, we come to an end of this very special episode of Sandarbha at Janata Television. We will be back again. Keep watching Janata Television. Namaste.